Welcome to Untold History, the space where we explore the secrets that shaped the world. In this chapter, we delve into the era of the Hohenstaufen, a dynasty that brought the Holy Roman Empire to its maximum splendor, but also to the brink of collapse. From the charismatic and audacious Frederick Barbarossa, who tried to impose imperial authority over Italy, to his grandson, Frederick II, a visionary ruler with a Renaissance spirit before his time, the Hohenstaufen waged a tireless struggle to consolidate their power. However, their ambition pitted them against a formidable enemy, the Italian papacy and city-states, who resisted imperial domination with fierce determination. Amid epic battles, treacherous alliances, and insurmountable political tensions, this dynasty defined the fate of the Holy Roman Empire, but it also sowed the seeds of its own downfall. Was it his quest for dominance that sealed his fate? Join us on this journey through one of the most vibrant and conflictive periods of the Middle Ages. After the investiture dispute, the Holy Roman Empire entered a new stage of transformation. With the dynasty weakened and the imperial power fragmented, a new house emerged that would mark the fate of the empire, the Hohenstaufen. This noble family from Swabia not only restored imperial power, but also faced internal and external challenges that would define the political evolution of Europe. In 1138, Conrad III was elected emperor, initiating the Hohenstaufen dynasty. However, his reign was marked by infighting with the powerful House of Welf and by his participation in the Second Crusade, which resulted in failure. His nephew, Frederick Barbarossa I, assumed the throne in 1152 with a clear vision to restore imperial power and reassert the Holy Empire's authority over his domains. Barbarossa attempted to consolidate imperial control over Italy, which led to a confrontation with the Northern Commons and with the Papacy. The Lombard League, backed by Pope Alexander III, defeated the emperor at the Battle of Legnano in 1176, forcing him to recognize the autonomy of Italian cities in the Peace of Constance in 1183. Despite this setback, Barbarossa maintained his authority in Germany and secured the throne of Sicily for his son Henry VI through his marriage to Constance of Sicily. The influence of the Hohenstaufen in Italy was one of the most significant aspects of his reign. Through strategic marriages and military campaigns, they managed to maintain relative control over the region, although they always faced resistance from the city-states and the papacy. The dream of a unified empire under the control of the Hohenstaufen was constantly threatened by the fragmentation of power and disputes between the various factions operating within the Holy Roman Empire. Henry VI, though briefly in power, managed to subdue the Sicilian nobility, establishing a basis for a unified monarchy. However, his untimely death in 1197 plunged the empire into a succession crisis that resulted in a civil war between his son Frederick II and Otto IV, backed by the papacy. Frederick II, known as Stupor Mundi, eventually prevailed and was crowned emperor in 1220. Frederick II was a singular figure in the history of the Holy Roman Empire. An intellectual, polyglot, and reformer, he promoted science and culture in his Sicilian court, promoting religious tolerance and codified law. His interest in Arab culture and his close relationship with Muslim scholars allowed him to develop a more advanced administrative and legal system for his time. In addition, he promoted education and founded the University of Naples in 1224, one of the first institutions of higher learning in Europe. However, his rule was marked by a constant struggle with the papacy. Papal excommunication did not prevent him from leading the Sixth Crusade, where he peacefully negotiated the recovery of Jerusalem. His diplomatic approach, rather than military conflict, allowed him to reach beneficial agreements, but he also earned him the enmity of the papacy, which saw him as a threat to its authority. Internally, Frederick II attempted to centralize imperial power, which generated resistance among the German nobility and the prince-electors. His policy of strengthening monarchical power came into conflict with the aspirations for autonomy of the feudal lords, who saw in his government a threat to their privileges. To secure the loyalty of the nobles, Frederick granted concessions that, in the long run, weakened imperial authority. The relationship between Frederick II and the Church deteriorated further when Pope Innocent IV declared him deposed in 1245, calling for a crusade against him. The war between the emperor and the papacy dragged on until his death in 1250, leaving the Holy Roman Empire in a state of crisis. His death marked the beginning of a period of instability, known as the Great Interregnum, where central power collapsed and imperial authority was called into question. With the death of Frederick II and the demise of the Hohenstaufen Dynasty in 1254, the Holy Roman Empire entered one of its most chaotic stages. The prince-electors assumed greater control over their territories, weakening the emperor's ability to rule effectively. This period of fragmentation opened the door to a new configuration of power within the empire, where city-states, feudal lords, and the church would play a decisive role in the evolution of the Holy Roman Empire. Despite the collapse of the Hohenstaufen, their legacy lived on in the history of the Holy Roman Empire. Frederick II's administrative reforms laid the foundation for the development of a more organized state structure, while his cultural and scientific policy influenced European thought for centuries. His confrontation with the papacy also left an indelible mark, evidencing the constant struggle between secular authority and the Church for control of Europe. The end of the Hohenstaufen did not mean the end of the Holy Roman Empire, but it did mark the beginning of a new era of decentralization and political fragmentation. In the absence of a strong dynasty that could maintain imperial power, the empire was plunged into a long period of disputes and conflicts that would define its development in the following centuries. The Holy Roman Empire was at a turning point. With the collapse of the Hohenstaufen, imperial power weakened, and the emperor's authority became increasingly symbolic. This power vacuum would give way to new infighting and the rise of new dynasties that would seek to restore order and stability to an increasingly fragmented empire. Thank you for joining us in Untold History. Continue with us on this journey through the history of the Holy Roman Empire and its impact on Europe.